pandering.
Well, you can call it pandering.
But first tonight, former Prime Minister Tony Abbott continues to insist his government made no deal over gun laws to garner support from crossbench Senator David Leyonhjelm. That's despite an email from the minister's office that clearly shows an agreement was offered. Senator Leyonhjelm says Mr Abbott either forgot or is being mischievous. Political correspondent David Lipson joins us from Canberra with more. David, for starters, the government has lost another day to this debate on gun laws.
That's right, Matt, and that's in no small part thanks to Tony Abbott, who yesterday sent that tweet in the middle of that heated debate in Parliament. This morning he held a doorstop interview, and then this evening he appeared on 7:30 here on the ABC for the first time since he lost the leadership. Now, he's doing so because he wants to defend his record in government. He has every right to do so, especially since it was indeed his government that initially imposed this ban on the Adler shotgun. What's at issue here, though, is the email that was sent from the Minister's office, a staff member in the Minister Responsible's office, to Senator David Leyonhjelm, which clearly sets out a quid pro quo agreement that he was not to support Labor's amendment to the Migration Act. In return, the government was to insert this sunset clause that would lift the ban on the Adler shotgun after 12 months. What happened after the receipt of that email was that indeed that sunset clause was added, and indeed David Leyonhjelm did not vote with Labor, voted with the government on that migration bill. Still, Tony Abbott on 7:30 insisting that there was no deal. Have a look.
Just about every regulation has a sunset clause, and I suspect that what these staffers were doing was telling the good senator what was happening anyway, as a matter of course, in an attempt to get him to support something that we thought was a very good idea. But the point I want to make, Lee, is that there were no deals. No deals.
So what's been Senator Leyonhjelm's response tonight, David?
Well, look, he's still fairly grumpy that the government reneged on what he insists was a deal, but he's also somewhat bemused at Tony Abbott's insistence in the face of what he says is very clear evidence, proof, in fact, that a deal was made. And look, in politics, there aren't many things that are as black and white as this case in particular. What David Leyonhjelm is hoping for now is a different sort of deal, one on Friday when the state and territory ministers meet for COAG to discuss this very issue, and David Leyonhjelm is hoping that this ban will be lifted. Several of the states are pushing the case that yes, perhaps the ban should be lifted, but the Adler gun should be recategorised to make it harder for people to obtain. But you'd have to say, after this week, the politics of this week and all the noise and the controversy, it would be very unlikely for those ministers to come out of the meeting on Friday with an agreement to lift the ban after, as I say, so much controversy. Let's just hear, though, David Leyonhjelm's response to what Tony Abbott had to say tonight.
Well, there's the email, the exchange of emails, which confirms, you know, if you do this, we'll do that. And then this regulation was introduced, and it's quite specific. It says a 12-month sunset on the import ban. So it's directly responding to the deal that we had.
So what do you say back to Mr Abbott?
He either didn't know what was going on, which I find hard to believe because it was a very centrally controlled government when he was in the driving seat, or he's forgotten, or he's being mischievous. And I can't speculate about which one of those it might be.
Well, the Senator thought he had a deal, David Lipson. We'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us.